Hey y'all, Toad here. Well, I'm just pretty much finished reading through the executive orders that were put out. This is what, let me check the date real quick. This is 16 January, as they were published by the mainstream media. And I'm just going to kind of go over them one by one, maybe give you some thoughts and whatnot. There's over 20 of them, so I don't know if I don't want these videos to run too long. So I might break this up into a few. So if the editing seems a little weird, it's just because I decided to do that. So bear with me. And of course, I'll put them in as you'll see. Number one is issue a presidential memorandum to require federal agencies to make relevant data available to the federal background check system. Wow. Sharing information sounds like a pretty good deal, right? Well, when you go and buy a firearm now, you have to fill out your paperwork, and they do a background check. Now, supposedly, your personal information as it relates to that firearm purchase does not get put into a database. It's supposed to be kept in paper, maybe even electronic form. That I don't know, but at least definitely in paper form, in the possession of your FFL dealer for 10 years. Is that information that's going to be shared? Now, that information right now is available to the BATF. That's not even a debatable point. If you think that an ATF agent cannot go into an FFL dealer, request and receive all the information that's kept in those files, you're fooling yourself. So, will all that information be available to the ATF easier? And then, if it is, this particular executive order guarantees that federal agencies will make relevant data available to the federal background check system. So, in other words, all the federal agencies, all of them, that's what this says, will be able to share whatever information they may garner, in whatever way they garner it. This executive order does not say anything more. It's extremely vague. But it is 100% all about sharing gathered information. And of course, that's on you. Number two, address unnecessary legal barriers, particularly relating to the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, that may prevent states from making information available to the background check system. Okay. Supposedly this has to do with mental health, because keep in mind throughout this whole thing, this is supposed to be and is being sold and advertised as legislation and executive orders as a direct result of the Sandy Hook and other incidents of its type. Don't forget that. Unnecessary legal barriers. It's an interesting way to put that. And how do you address an unnecessary legal barrier? Doesn't sound good to me. It sounds like somebody wants information that there are legal barriers to them obtaining. Therefore, they've been deemed unnecessary, which means they need to be removed. So, another, wipe it all away, another information gathering tool. That's all it is. Number three, improve incentives for states to share information with the background check system. Okay, improve incentive to states. Incentive. Gee, what might that be? Now, if I improve the incentives to get somebody to do something, it's another word for a bribe. Okay, that's what it is. You have to, if you're gonna improve incentives, that means there's already incentives in place, but you have to improve them. If you improve them, you increase them, whatever the incentives may be. And what information? Doesn't say a word about what information, but of course it is the third out of three. That's an information gathering and sharing order. That's what it is. 4. Direct the Attorney General to require categories of individuals prohibited from having a gun to make sure dangerous people are not slipping through the cracks. If you're reviewing the categories, that means that those categories are already in place. People who can't own a firearm by today's laws are categorized. If you review the categories, does that mean that people who are categorized as unable to purchase firearms may be able to purchase them because you're under, the category is under review? You think? No. Or is it more likely that there could be more categories coming down the pike? Again, if you're reviewing categories of individuals, this is again another informational deal. Especially if you've helped gather information for the first three. Now we have to improve the categories of people who are unable. The slipping through the cracks, that's just garbage at the end. Review categories, that's the key one. Now, number 4. Propose rulemaking to give law enforcement the ability to run a full background check on an individual before returning a seized gun. Okay. I guess it would depend on why the gun got seized in the first place. If it gets seized in a crime, it's evidence. And if the person, when you run a background check on a suspected criminal, this shouldn't be a problem. So propose rulemaking to give law enforcement the ability to run a full background check. The key phrase there is give law enforcement the ability to run a full background check. In other words, this rule is simply put there to use the information that's already been gathered, like information after they've reviewed the categories. Remember that? Now that's just 5. And again, I don't want this to run too long, so I'm going to stop right there. And I'll probably say this in the other videos, but probably the most important point about this whole thing. Now remember, this is coupled with Sandy Hook, Columbine, all of these places where people have misused a tool to do something obviously horrible, no doubt about it. But did you notice when President Obama made his proposals to Congress, it was all about the amount of rounds in a magazine, the look and perceived intention of a certain kind of firearm, the quote-unquote assault weapon, which of course is completely misnamed, but we'll let that slide. You do realize, of course, it is the point I want to make. I'm going to reiterate this later. What part of any one of these 5 so far has led you to believe for a split second that this is only about assault weapons? It isn't, because it never has been. This is all about registration of all types of firearms. So you people that are out there that are saying, you don't need 20 rounds in a magazine, you don't need this, you don't need something that has a bayonet lug or whatever. All of these executive orders have been floating around up here. They're for you too. Hunters, collectors, anybody who uses a firearm for any purpose. And this is an argument above and beyond the fact that it's a constitutional right to start with. But if you hunter types, you have daddy's shotgun, you're the target too. Make no mistake about it.